everybody. Welcome to Deep Gets Deep, the show on Filthy Casual that lets me talk almost exclusively about my feelings. Welcome to my therapy session. Now, I want to talk about something this week that I have been on numerous rants and raves on for a long time. Something that has been the main focus of my life for as long as I can remember. And that is the subject of what it means to be an artist. Let's begin. I think the first thing that we have to do is really get into what art is. Because I think for a lot of people, art can mean different things. For example, some people see good drawings, paintings, sculptures, etc. as their main idea of what art is. Hence the idea of an art museum. Some people see films and theater as art. I think art is a lot more broad of a category than people give it credit for. Because in my opinion, art is anything created by someone that has beauty. And of course, because of the old adage, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, art can be such a wide variety of things. It can be a piece of composed music that comes together to evoke a feeling. It could be a well-landscaped garden that makes you look twice, or it can be a dance number that makes your jaw drop in awe as you watch it. Because art is the culmination of your experiences and all that you've learned up to that point, put into effect to create something beautiful. So in a lot of ways, it's really easy to be an artist. But what happens when you dig a little deeper? Because sometimes art can be dark. Sometimes art can be sad and art can make you feel lonely. Is that still beauty? Well, I would argue yes. Absolutely, it's still beauty. But it's not just beauty in the traditional aesthetic sense. I think the beauty on this lonely, dark, and sad art is the beauty that comes from empathizing with another person. From relating to another person. So when you listen to Bad Religion by Frank Ocean, and at every crescendo and with every lyric you feel moved, and you feel the pain of unrequited love in the same way that Frank Ocean did when he crafted the piece, there's a beauty in that feeling. Because, and maybe this is just me, I think that a lot of art is born from the heart of people who have always felt held back in some way. Or they've always felt some level of pressure, or there's some social, personal, or psychological need they're fulfilling. And like I said, this is most definitely a broad generalization, and I don't want there to be any confusion. Because art can come from almost anywhere. But of the artists that I know, most always seem to have something that drives them into the arms of art. Because at base, art allows for the rawest form of self-expression imaginable. When you're allowed to create, or you decide to create for yourself, there is no limit to what you can build with simply your own thoughts. And I think in a lot of ways, that's why sometimes you'll hear people lament on the idea that artists often don't age well, because sometimes it seems that somewhere along the lines they stopped creating for themselves and they started doing it because they felt obligated, because it was expected of them. And maybe this is true. Maybe there is a lost heart in art from those who have filled their desires with it. But I think that's a different topic for another day. With these points in mind, I think it's safe to assume that I at least have a base understanding of what art means to me, and I can appreciate it in all of its forms. But as an artist, I think there's more questions that need to be answered. Like, Outside of the need to express yourself, what is the goal of artists when they build something? I think this is where things get a little tricky, because some people would argue that there really isn't a goal outside of expression, that expression is the true nature and the true goal of any art. But I think in a lot of cases, there's a little more. Most people who consider themselves artists wish to somehow make a living doing it. Same as someone who loves statistics would love to get a job with the census. If you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. But why do we express ourselves? Well, there are a couple of reasons. One of the reasons you may feel the need to express yourself through art is because you feel like you can't through any other medium. Maybe you deal with a lot of social anxiety, and finding someone to lament to is far too difficult for you, so you write poetry. But when you ask other people to read your poetry, what do you hope for? Maybe you feel the need to express yourself through art because it's difficult to put into words exactly how you feel. So you draw, and you draw, and you draw, and eventually you draw something, and you want to show someone. What is your goal when you show that piece of art to someone? Now, I think these questions are some of the most important to artists. Because why would we willingly expose our weaknesses? I think it comes down to one thing: being understood. One of my favorite moments in the television show Community is when Abed, he's this weird kind of Asperger-y, autistic character, obsessed with making films. He starts making films because Britta offers to pay for his classes, but his father won't pay for his classes. The whole time he's trying to build this film, get these reactions out of characters, and at the end of it, he shows it to his dad. And when he shows his dad the film is definitely goofy and weird, but the message of it is clear. Abed felt responsible for the dissolution of his parents' marriage, and because of that, he always felt a disconnect with his father. The father cries and weeps and assures him it wasn't him, and then he says this out loud to everybody. He says, "My son is hard to understand, and if making movies helps him to be understood, I will pay for the class." And that always spoke to me, because it was something that I wanted. It was one of the reasons why I started writing my songs on such a personal level, because I always felt like people had trouble understanding me. And that I always had trouble relating to other people. So when I write a song about the duality of being so narcissistic as to believe that I'm even at all good enough to sell my personality as a commodity, while simultaneously hating so much of what I create because I can't even stand to like myself, all I wanted was for people to understand me and actually get who I am, because I felt like no one did. So for me, what it means to be an artist is seeking an understanding with people who would otherwise not be interested. But what about your comedy, Tyler? Do you not consider that form of entertainment art? No. That's not true by any means, because I think in a lot of ways, comedy is expression in the same way as anything else. And I think motivation is the same. But the method is a bit different. Because I think people who love entertaining are fulfilling a narcissistic tendency as well. But they're doing it constructively. And this is something that I've spoken on a lot. There is an albeit unfortunate part of me that is in love with the idea of being paid attention to. I love being the focus. And I think it's because I like the idea of being admired. People seeing me and aspiring to more because they find me inspiring. And I'll admit it, that's absolutely a narcissistic attitude to take. I get that. But I have this list of quotes that I live by, and one of them is by MC Frontalot. And what he says is, I know my limitations, and I try to function within them. The truth is, we all have things about ourselves that we can't change. Propensities in the same realm as sexuality. It's part of our genetics, or it's ingrained in us, so much so that it can't be taken away. Because of this, I feel it is necessary to identify that and live with it in a constructive way. And I think the best way to channel intrinsic narcissism is to perform and create and to entertain. Because here we are, being put on a pedestal, and if you're performing on a stage, it's almost literally. And people pay you to watch what you do. It fuels your need to be paid attention to, but in a way that is so positive for everybody. Not just yourself, everybody gets something from it. People admire you for being up there because, and it makes them happy to hear what you have to say. So nobody loses in this situation, but you still get to indulge your narcissism. And I feel like that's the best way to function within the idea of how much you love being paid attention to. And that's why I think things like comedy can still be art. Because it's creating something that's beautiful. And it makes you feel. It makes people feel in a way that's so positive for everybody. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe. If you hated this video, be extra sure to subscribe. If you have suggestions on anything you want me to talk about, please leave a comment below. I can't always come up with these topics on my own, so it'll be really helpful. And always make sure to stay thoughtful. Thanks, everyone.